What if someone were to make a movie that was so unfunny, so universally panned, that the star wouldn't be in another film for 9 years? Crazy, right? So crazy that it might just work. That's why we're here to prove to you that the master of disguise is not that bad. Welcome one and all to It's Not That Bad, the podcast that looks for A grades in B movies. And every now and then you run across a movie where you sit there and go, I am surprised we have not covered that on this show yet, because it definitely qualifies. There's zero question about that. But here we are today, and we're talking about the master of disguise. And here to go down this road with me, first timer on the show, Noah Siegel, London. Noah, welcome to the show. How are you doing today, man?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on the program.
So when you pitched this film to be on this show, I have to ask you, why do you regret all of your life choices this way?
Well, that's the thing. Everyone's a kid once. That's really the only time you can ever find this movie funny, because I watched it again this morning to prepare for this, and I just regret ever liking this movie whatsoever.
It's interesting you say that you could only be a kid once, because apparently Dana Carvey wrote this film for his kids to be able to watch it. His kids were younger at the time, and a lot of his movies were a little bit more, for lack of a better term, not kid friendly, probably coarse language and the like. But he wrote this so they had a movie with their dad in it that they could watch. I'm curious if they actually still watch it.
No offense to Dana Carvey, he's a great comedian, he's an SNL legend, but his movies, there's something to be wanted that's just not there at that level. And what's funny is that this is also actually a Happy Madison movie, which that's surprising as well.
This is the worst of all worlds on this one here. But before we get too deep into this film, it is time to take the master of disguise and trailerize it.
It is the year 2002, and the world is about to have a horror unleashed upon it. One that there may be no turning back from. Dana Carvey goes from playing dress-up and imitating people on Saturday Night Live and heads to the big screen, where he'll play Pistachio Disguisey, a guy who goes on to play dress-up and imitate people. Watch as he massacres an Italian accent, massacres the self-respect of good turtles everywhere, and massacres the dignity of the USS Enterprise's science officer in The Master of Disguise. It's a film that asks questions that can't be answered. Like, how can anyone who's seen this film complain about Chris Pratt's accent in Super Mario? Or how could anyone justify SNL alumni getting their own movie? Or how did anyone give Happy Madison Productions so much Netflix money after making a movie like this? We may never know, and if we did, the knowledge may hurt our brains. Dana Carvey is the master of disguise. Rated PG, for Pistachio is a guy's name. No, really, we looked it up. And who the hell names their kid Pistachio? Bunch of nuts, that's who.
God.
I actually did look it up. According to babycenter.com, Pistachio is, in fact, a boy's name. At the time that they had listed, I think it was like in 2021 or something like that, it was the 4,827th most popular boy's name in the world at that point, which, admittedly, it's a low number, but apparently someone names their kid Pistachio.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what the number was, and hearing that it's under 4,000.
Yeah, like 4,827. Like, you have to sit there and go like, oh, so like one person maybe?
Yeah, I can only imagine. That's not a name it doesn't sound like it would be a name.
Like, I hear celebrities and some of the weird ass names that they give their kids, and I sit there and go, yeah, okay, that's fine, but they're not named Pistachio.
Yeah. I mean, even Northwest sounds normal compared to Pistachio.
Right? Oh God, there are so many, like Nicolas Cage named his kid Kal-El. Like I think it was like Penn from Penn Teller named his kid like a Moxie Crime Fighter or something like that. Like,
oh my
yeah,
God.
I mean, that makes Chris Martin and Gwyneth Paltrow naming their kid Apple normal in comparison to, like, Precious Achua is sitting there laughing, going, "Your name's Pistachio." Oh, yeah, I just got a basketball reference in there on a movie podcast. There we go. Now we're scoring. But let's get into who's in this film. This movie stars Dana Carvey, Jennifer Esposito, Harold Gould, James Brolin, Brent Spiner, yes, that Brent Spiner, Austin Wolfe, Edie McClurg, and Maria Canal-Bearer. And again, I apologize if I mess up any names here. It was directed by Perry Andelin Baker. And I have to say this in my menacing voice. This was the only film that he has ever directed, even to this day. Like, this is it. This is one and done.
Yep. And it's funny because I looked it up as well. This movie actually struggled to find a director because from the get-go, they knew it was bad.
Oh, yeah. No, it's like sometimes you can sit there, look at something on paper and go, you know what? This should work out. You know, if we direct it right. Sometimes you look at something on paper and go, we're That's basically it.
Yeah, for lack of a better term.
Right. There are a ton of cameos in this film, though, including ones from Bo Derek, Jesse the Body Ventura, Jessica Simpson, and American sprinter Michael Johnson. Now, I mentioned that this film qualifies in spades. Let's go to the Razzies, though. This is the funny thing. Only one Razzie nomination for this film. Only one. And that was for Bo Derek, who was nominated for Worst Supporting Actress. She lost to Madonna in Die Another Day. But at the Stinkers Bad Movie Awards, Dana Carvey was nominated for Worst Actor. He lost to Tom Green in Stealing Harvard. He was
I can understand that.
He was also nominated for Worst Fake Accent Male. He lost to Harrison Ford in K-19 The Widowmaker. The movie was nominated for Worst Picture. It lost to Swept Away, and rightfully so, because that movie was so bad.
Yeah.
It was also the co-winner of the most painfully unfunny comedy. It shared the award that year with Kung Pao, Enter the Fist, and I'm sorry, Stinkers Bad Movie Awards, you're wrong. Kung Pao was a gem. You put some damn respect on that film. That movie's funny as hell. However, this film, Master of Disguise, is on Wikipedia's list of films considered to be the worst. And if you ever want just a trip down like really bad movie road, just find that list on Wikipedia and sit there and go, yep, oh dear God, yep. Like, you'd think at this point we would just take that list and do episodes on that entire list. But no, we're going to spread out the pain a little bit here. However, there is an accolade in this, but I'm not quite sure it's the one you want to be, touting here. At the Kids' Choice Awards that year, Brent Spiner was nominated for Favorite Fart in a Movie. There was an award for Favorite Fart in a Movie. And it's not like they didn't have a few attempts to go at it here, but they lost to Matthew Lillard in Scooby-Doo. Like, I'm sorry, if the only good accolade you can get is favorite fart in a movie.
Yeah, that just speaks for itself.
Right? I mean, trust me, I got a fart button on my audio board here, and I'm tempted to hit it today. We'll see how that goes. Of course, we'll have to, put in a nice long awkward silence afterwards and just know that we're sitting there awkwardly going, do we acknowledge the fart? Do we acknowledge the fart? The fart may come.
Unlike Fabrizio in the car every single time it happens. Right?
Oh, giggle farts. We should just call Brent Spiner giggle farts and be done with it. That was lore, though. That was not data. That was lore in the film. Just get my Trekkie geek out of there. This film had a budget of $16 million and worldwide grossed $43 million. So, it did make some money, and when it debuted on the August 2nd, 2002 weekend, it debuted at number 3. Debuting at number 1 was Signs. That took in $60 million that week. Master of Disguise took in $12.5 million in its opening week. There were a few other debuts. Martin Lawrence Live, Run Tell Dat, debuted at just over $7 million in number 4. And Full Frontal and limited release only debuted with $739,000. Now, here's the asterisk on that, okay? So with Martin Lawrence and Full Frontal, both of them debuted in under 1,000 theaters, where Master of Disguise was in 2,565 theaters. Martin Lawrence pretty much doubled the per theater average of Master of Disguise. So had it been in wider release, it would have made more money. By the way, the number 2 film that year, or that week, Austin Powers in Goldmember in its second week. So Dana Carvey could not beat the second week of Michael Myers. I'm not going to lie. I'm surprised it made $12.5 million.
Yeah, that seems like a lot. I would not have expected that much.
Like, I remember when the ads came out for that film, and, you know, you'd be lying if you say you weren't, you know, running around going, turtle, 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 which might be one of the only funny things in the film. It's one of those, you know, promos where you realize that they put all the funny stuff in the trailer.
Yeah, it seems to be a thing that's still going on 20 years later. It just seems like every trailer just gives away most of the movie. Yeah,
that is, and I'm not going to lie here, that is my biggest beef of films. And there've been a few of them on this show that we have talked about where it's like, yeah, you could have watched the trailer and you did not need to spend that hour and a half of your life. But the reason why we are here are the critics, because they suck. Over at Metacritic, this film has a Metascore of only 12. And over at Rotten Tomatoes, the audience score is 35%, but the tomatometer, 1%.
That 1% has to just be turtle. That's it.
Right? So somewhere there's a critic with a turtle, and they said, yeah, it can't be that bad. Click it. give him a that's like a pity point at that point. That's the participant ribbon for thanks for coming out. Thank you for not being completely offensive. You know, because in all honesty, the movie, while you may sit there and groan at a lot of the jokes, the movie isn't offensive at all. It's actually pretty tame.
Yeah. I mean, you can make an argument for the brown face, but that's about it.
Yeah, that part doesn't hold up too well now, does it? No. I mean, it's done in a really, really goofy thing. I can't even justify that. But let's get into the breakdown here, because there is a lot to discuss about this film. But let's start right at the top with the pistachio disguising himself, Dana Carvey. How is he for you?
Oh my God! I mean, it's painful because I love Dana Carvey. I love his stuff on Saturday Night Live. Church Lady is one of my favorite skits of all time. But this is basically just him doing almost sort of SNL skits for an hour and a half. And I just don't like it.
I wish it was a bit more, for lack of a better term, structured as a Saturday Night Live sketch. I mean, let's be honest. Dana Carvey was one of the best impressionists on Saturday Night Live during his day, because every comedian kind of had their era of Saturday Night Live, and Dana Carvey's impressions were bang on. And I completely agree. Even his stand-up special that he did around that time was really good and really funny. I remember watching it ad nauseum. And this does have some good imitations. Like his Scarface, his Tony Montana.
Oh. It's spot on.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And even the ones where it's not a direct play off of a specific character, like your suave British guy that walks in and just going to sit there and wax British over everything. Like, that's funny, right? And there needed to be more of that. But the problem is, Pistachio's, for lack of a better term, normal speaking voice is so gratingly annoying that you're like, can we please have more impressions so we can get away from Pistachio?
Yeah, I would sit through an hour and a half of Gemi Num Num versus an hour of Pistachio Disguisey.
Right? Again, more of that. Like, this is the problem. The comedy is in the impressions. It's not in the A plot, because the A plot features a character you just want to boot out the door.
Yep. I mean, or you want to do what Rex does and just like face palm his face and just shove it.
Right? Whew. You have, and he wrote this. He wrote this. I mean, with some help from Sandler and Happy Madison to kind of tweak a few jokes here and there. And there were some really, really good beats. But the beats needed to be, after a bit, it got to be just impression for impression's sake, as opposed to the impressions really doing something.
Yeah.
Not to mention the fact, and I mean, I can suspend disbelief. I can suspend disbelief that he can, turn into a cow patty, on a dime, and that works out well. And again, those little spots work well. It felt almost, for lack of a better term, like a cartoon.
Yeah, I can see what you mean by that.
Now, that being said, and I'm probably going to regret saying this, so bear with me here. If they forewent the live action movie and they took the Disguisey family and those kind of abilities and made a cartoon series based on Pistachio as the Master of Disguise, it would actually probably be really, really funny, because in a short 22-minute format, you can have a lot more fun with it, and you can go way beyond what you could do in live action. I think the Master of Disguise can work as a cartoon. A Saturday morning, I recognize Saturday morning cartoons aren't a thing anymore, but I'm old, bear with me here. But a Saturday morning cartoon within this property could work.
Yeah, I think it actually could, because you can even go beyond Devlin Bowman. There can be more villains. You can get away with a lot more in animation than you can in live action.
If they can turn Clerks into an animated series and have it be really, really funny, and just some of the madcap antics that you put Jay and Silent Bob and Dante and Randall in, and make it work and make you want more. By the way, Kevin Smith, we want more. Okay, just bear with me. But I could see Dana Carvey developing this, and in that situation, Pistachio isn't annoying with the voice. It's a cartoon at that point.
Yeah, because when you're looking at the face of Dana Carvey and knowing what he is capable of, and he's doing that voice for an hour, it's just, come on, just stop. If it's a cartoon, then you're separating the character from the actor.
Yeah, I mean, we have waxed philosophic on this show about Saturday Night Live sketches being turned into 90-minute films, and the joke maybe not necessarily carrying all the way. In some cases, it works, right? Night at the Roxbury, I'll stand by that one. That's fine.
Yeah, so will I.
Because we met the characters on Saturday Night Live. With Pistachio, he had never had a chance to really develop the character outside of his impressionist abilities on Saturday Night Live. We never got that character workshopped. And I think that's where SNL works well. Workshop those characters before they hit the big screen. Coneheads, Wayne's World, Night at the Roxbury. These are...
MacGruber.
Right? MacGruber! Like, these are good characters that actually work well on the big screen because they were workshopped. You could figure out. It's like taking a brand new song and playing it live a few times just to see how the crowd reacts to it. And if they're dead, then maybe it's a B-side, right? Here, workshop the characters. Church Lady, great. Wayne and Garth, great. Like, so many characters that they created. And maybe that's it. Mike Myers was known as, and I don't mean to kind of put Mike Myers versus Dana Carvey in this situation here, but like characters like Mike Myers and Will Ferrell, like they were good at creating characters. Dana Carvey was good at impressions. He did make some good characters, but more so known for his impressions. And this plays on that strength, but would play better as a cartoon.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, when I think of like guys like Mike Myers and Will Ferrell, like you mentioned, they can create a character just, it seems like, from nothing and convince you that it's the character and not the person.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is, they create characters that make you actually enjoy them. Like Wayne and Garth, the two of them combined, and you have to give Dana Carvey credit for creating that character. You like Wayne and Garth. They're fun characters. Hans and Franz, speaking of another Dana Carvey character, right? While I don't think Hans and Franz would work as a movie, we're happy when they come on, right?
Yeah.
Sprockets from Mike Myers. Now it's not much Sprockets when we dance. Like, great character. Maybe not necessarily, again, in a 90-minute film. You know, I could deal with Sprockets if it was a Rammstein music video, which if Rammstein ever did a music video with Sprockets, the internet would explode. Just saying. I'm now giving you a list of things you never thought you realized you needed in your life, and now here we are here. But let's move on to Jennifer Esposito as Jennifer Baker. How was she for you?
Honestly, probably the character who had the strongest grip on reality, because she just tried to call out everyone on all the outlandish things that were going on, and it just she just seemed she just was so out of place.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Going into this film, I wasn't exactly as knowledgeable about Jennifer Esposito's filmography up to that point. And for the record, this was actually a first-time watch for me. I think I had avoided it like the plague until this point. So thank you for breaking my Master of Disguise cherry, if that thing actually exists. Yeah, we just went that far. But going on here. You wonder where that 1% came from the critics. And I think Jennifer Esposito actually had a lot to do with that. It's the anti-Tommy Lee Jones. You know, if you go back to Batman Forever, Tommy Lee Jones tried to match crazy with Jim Carrey, and you're out of your league at that point. Jennifer Esposito knew exactly what her role was in this, and that was to be the sense of normalcy beside Pistachio, because he was going to be completely and utterly crazy and obnoxious and out there, and you needed that anchor. And I think it was the perfect duo for that. Moving on, James Brolin as Fabrizio Disguisi. I'm going to try and get out of this accent here, but you know how when you watch a movie and the accent sticks? So I'm sorry, but the accent stuck. But as the father, Fabrizio Disguisi.
Honestly, I had no problem with him. I thought he was a good character, and he played the role of a father figure well.
I'm not gonna lie, seeing some still shots of him in the movie, I'm like, wait, did they get Burt Reynolds here? Or was he disguising himself as Burt Reynolds? Because he has that kind of air about him. You know, that Boogie Nights Burt Reynolds air. There's two things I have to point out to him, though, in this. A, it makes total sense that he was like a secret agent spy kind of character in this film back in his day. He has that air about him. He has that, for lack of a better term, that machismo about him. It's not out of the question that he would have that kind of job. But there is zero way that a man that looks like that and walks around like that had a kid that looked like Pistachio.
Yeah, I mean, you can also see that it just makes no sense, because he does seem like he's like a head and shoulders taller than Dana Carvey. Yeah,
I mean, you can't even sit there and look at Edie McClurg and say, "Oh, well, that's why," because Edie McClurg is an absolute gem. And I get it. Fictional characters. It's a movie. Don't take it that seriously. But you see some movie parents, and their kids kind of thing, and you can sit there and say, well, okay, this makes sense. It makes sense that this is their kid, and maybe that's part of the comedy to it. For all we know, Fabrizio actually looks like Pistachio, but he's just constantly in disguise because he doesn't want to look like Pistachio.
Yeah. I mean, he might just be that masterful of a master of disguise.
Right? He has lost himself in the role. He has gone, full method acting and not wanting to look like Pistachio. I can't believe we have master of disguise conspiracy theories here about some of the characters.
I mean, for me, it's shades of Robert Downey Jr. and Tropic Thunder, just lost in the method.
You're the one who mentioned Brownface, though, and then you go back to Tropic Thunder.
Yeah, I mean, it is another example. Yeah,
but I mean, keep in mind when this movie came out, right? And there's a lot of comedies that, in 2000, early 2000s, and they went there, and at the time, people weren't as sensitive to it. That movie comes out now with that scene, and it's getting canceled before it even hits theaters, right?
Yeah.
Back then, the sensibilities were a bit more laxed. I maybe it's just me, and I'm just going to get on my soapbox here for a second, if that's okay. I don't really have a problem looking back at films and recognizing that society at the time was a lot more tolerant of things. Was it wrong back then? Probably, but I'm not going to sit there and start, throwing DVDs out and ripping pages out of books because of something that was done 21 years ago. Also, this film is 21 years old, so feel that old. But I mean, this is a goofy movie. And goofs are going to goof, right? So, don't take a look at this and go, oh, we can't watch that. It's got that kind of scene in it. There are many other reasons not to watch this film. That's not just one of them. However, Edie McClurg, you can never go wrong with Edie McClurg.
Yeah. She plays her role very well. I mean, there's not a lot of her in the movie, but when you do see her, she definitely, she fits that description perfectly.
Mm-hmm. Like, you have to have likable characters in the film. It can't all be annoying, right? And Edie McClurg and James Brolin as, the disguisey parents, the mama and the papa. Oh my God, I gotta stop doing that. This is what happens when you watch a movie like this. It gets stuck in your craw and you just can't get it out there. But I mean, Edie McClurg's on the screen and you smile. That's just the way her personality is, and there are certain actors and actresses that are able to do that. Their mere presence is smile inducing. So I think they did very well with James Brolin and Edie McClurg as the parents. But then there's a grandfather disguisee is played by Harold Gould.
I mean, I got to be honest, there are aspects of him that I like and there are aspects of him that I don't, but the ones that I do like outweigh the ones that don't because he is actually very funny in his role, I think.
I'm curious now. What is it about Grandfather Disguisey that you didn't like?
It's kind of weird. It's just the fact that he comes in right away and it just seems like he kind of expects Pistachio to know who he is, even though he was estranged. Him and his father had a strained relationship for over 20 years, and then just sort of started doting on his grandson, just saying, okay, you need to do this, and I hear conveniently I have this for you, conveniently look in the attic. Just stuff like that. It just seemed weird.
Well, I mean, the pop-up book was really funny. I'm not going to lie, with the little things of you have to do this with zero help from your grandfather. Well, that's just convenient.
Yeah.
I think the thing, though, is that, if the grandfather is estranged from the father, there has to be a reason for it. And you see the way that he pushes Pistachio to be a master of disguise. So you have to extrapolate from, the slaptastic relationship that grandfather completely, starts to beat the crap out of Pistachio just to get him to pay attention. That he probably did the same thing to Fabrizio, which is why they're estranged. It's slapstick, but it actually creates more backstory. Yeah, exactly. But very much so. Which apparently, and I was really I was surprised to find this out. So apparently the reason why there's a lot of slapping and not punching is that Dana Carvey wanted this to be a PG film. And the only way you could actually punch someone is if their face is covered, which is why apparently he's fighting ninjas, but why everything else is slapping. So it actually, like, if you wonder why it's slaptastic, that's why. But, and I'm not gonna lie, the things you have to do to get to a certain rating just feels like so obscure. Like, oh no, you can't punch a guy. That's PG-13. You can slap him around a little bit, but that's okay. Oh no, he's wearing a mask. Oh, you go right ahead. Like, what makes
that like it just seems so, like you said, it's obscure. Like, not many people are going to know that.
Yeah, and you can only imagine, like, there's a fascinating documentary called "This Film Is Not Yet Rated," and it basically follows a film through the rating process. So they shot the documentary, and then they submitted the documentary for a rating that was talking about the rating system, and apparently they're very secretive about it. And then they basically followed this documentary through the rating process and what it takes to cut it down. And it's like, are you kidding me? This is so brilliant. It is a fascinating documentary. If you've never seen This Film Has Not Yet Been Rated, watch it. It shows the complete over-the-top buffoonery of what it takes to get a film to a certain rating. So if it slaps giving, then that gets you to PG, go for it, right? But the thing about Harold Gould, he was so comically cranky, right? It was so over the top. It was so stage as opposed to screen. Like, it was so grandiose that you couldn't help but smile every time he slapped Dana Carvey around.
Yeah, and also, I mean, like, if you want the dramatization of the cranky old man, I mean, just look at his entrance. I mean, it's Exorcist at its finest,
right? And that's the thing, right? It's Harold Gould brought such a presence in the way he enters, right? And, you know, with the way he walks and carries himself in front of Pistachio, like, it was perfect. It was exactly what that role needed. And I can't believe I'm talking passionately about the Master of Disguise. But again, here we are. We've devolved. Maria Canals Barrera, and again, I apologize if I messed up the name, as Sophia, the girl that Pistachio likes, but seems to like everybody else. Your thoughts on her?
Oh my God. I mean, it was, the movie would have been just as fine without her there. I mean, obviously it was a way to sort of just show how aloof Pistachio is, but also just I love the fact that she goes all the way to the restaurant to say, "You're not my type, I'm leaving," and then leaves.
I mean, if you want to tell someone that you don't want to be with them, that's kind of one way to do it. But the thing is, it's comedically so. You know, the fact that she's, you know, you could sit there and say, I could see why Pistachio would like her. She's kind of, I'm not gonna say wholesome, but she's not trashy, right? She's PG. She's absolutely PG. You know, Pistachio is pretty innocent. You know, and you don't want someone like leather clad and trashy. I think Maria nailed Sophia perfectly here. The best part of any film is your villain. And Brent Spiner as Devlin Bowman. I mean, come on.
He was great. He was probably my favorite character as a kid, and is still to this day.
I mean, he has gone on record and say he has zero regrets about this film, because there are, and he nailed this perfectly. Like, there are some movies that are so epically bad that you can't help but enjoy yourself in watching the film. And I can't disagree with this. I mean, there are some movies that are so bad they're good. You know, and I hold Kung Pao, Enter the Fist, you know, so high as like it is so stupid. It's so stupid, but you can't help but laugh through the whole thing, right? It's brilliantly stupid. And I think Master of Disguise, I mean, if you're looking for a vehicle to push Dana Carvey's career forward, this ain't it. But if you're looking for a short amount of time with some stupid laughs, this is it.
Yeah. I mean, especially the gag that, like, well, the laugh fart that's just done repeatedly throughout the movie, but it's just never, I mean, you don't have to explain it. It's just, it is what it is.
It is. I did tell you that I had a fart button on the board, right?
You did. And we said we were going to make it awkward, but we brought it up at the right time. It was funny.
Yeah, it was almost like a perfectly timed fart, right? I've been squeezing that in for a little bit there, and it had to be released. It's okay. But the thing is with this film, and I get why Dana Carvey made it. Because as I'm watching this film, like, this is so goofy and so over the top and so slapstick that I almost wanted to tell my kids, you got to watch this film because they're going to get a bunch of giggle laughs. And I think that's where this film still can work.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one that, I mean, it's also like, I mean, I'll be the first one to admit when something that shouldn't be I know I'm not supposed to laugh as a 28-year-old, it's going to make me laugh. Like if someone spills water or someone falls off a chair or like someone gets hurt in a funny way, you don't want to laugh, but you're going to laugh. It's child laughter.
I mean, to quote The Simpsons, ball in the groin has a ball in the groin. Like, it's true. Like, there's a reason why YouTube channels or fast channels like Fail Army exist. We, as humans, we laugh wholeheartedly at things we probably shouldn't laugh at. You know, people take a slip, people like get knocked in the ball by their kids swinging a plastic bat kind of thing. Like we shouldn't laugh because we know if it was us in the moment, we'd be keeled over going, but we do because we're not them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's all like, well, I mean, that's the saying. It's always funny when it happens to someone else.
Exactly. And the thing with this film is that it plays on all the things that you probably shouldn't laugh at, but you couldn't laugh at it anyways because it is just so, it embraces the stupid. Like, it's one thing if a film tries really hard to be cool and it's not, and it's like, oh, this is kind of sad. This embraces the absurdity of a character like Pistachio Disguisey. Like, no bones about it. Like, just jumps right in 2 feet. I think that's why I really could see this as a cartoon.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely serves, especially with the name Disguisey. I mean, as if the main character is going to do anything other than become a master of disguise.
Yeah. I mean, you know, the movie's subtle like a hammer, right? It's subtle like a sledgehammer. But these are the kind of characters that could work. And I'm telling you right now, and there's a reason why Dana Carvey was not just on Saturday Night Live, but had his own comedy show as well, his own sketch com show. You know, it didn't last that long, but it's out there. He's a funny writer. He taps into a youthful giggle inside of everyone. And I think if Dana Carvey was approached by someone like a Netflix or a Prime or a Hulu, and they're looking for, you know, decently clean, goofy fun, like I could see this show, you know, and you know it's on Netflix now, so Netflix pony up and pay Dana Carvey some money here. But I mean, if Netflix wanted to create a show that's, because they do have some more adult oriented animation, but if they wanted something that's middle of the road, you know, that parents can watch with their kids and it's a good stupid laugh, and they don't get, you know, deemed like bad parents for letting their kids watch it, this is the kind of property that Netflix should be buying into.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that, especially because a lot of people my age who were kids when this came out are starting to become parents. Why not?
Couple things that I've written down here that are kind of working against the film. And I say this, you know, 21 years later since the film was released. Some of the references in this film are really dated.
Oh, yeah.
Like, dear listeners, I ask you a question. Were you aware that Jesse Ventura was at one time the governor of Minnesota? Dear internet listeners, are you even aware who the hell Jesse the Body Ventura is? That's how dated this reference is. Right? There once was a time when Jessica Simpson was the biggest thing in pop music. Remember that? Yeah. A lot of people don't. I mean, the Tony Montana thing, that's timeless. Scarface is so iconic. But you see some of these movies, right? And the jokes are so dated. And you're like, oh, this was funny in 2002 when everything was relevant. Like, looking at this, did you have to remind yourself who some of these people were?
Me personally, no, because I'd watched movies like Predator, so I knew who Jesse Ventura was. And Scarface, everyone knows Scarface. But yeah, Jessica Simpson, I grew up in the era where like the whole thing with her being married to Nick Lachey, and that was all televised. It was basically like watching the Kardashians before the Kardashians. All of this stuff I knew, but the one that I actually had to look up was Michael Johnson.
Oh yeah, like I'm sitting there going, who the hell is this guy?
He's obviously an Olympic gold medalist. I had to look that up, but when I think he's not the first name I think of when it comes to sprinting. Obviously I have the benefit of being raised in an era where Usain Bolt is probably one of the best known sprinter of all time. But I had even then I had no idea who Michael Johnson was. I just went with it in the movie.
Yeah. Even someone like, as infamous as Ben Johnson might have been a little bit more, easier to sell because of everything that happened around him and the Olympics and the medal and everything else. But it's one of those things where it's very, very dated. And it's funny too, because Jessica Simpson aside, a lot of the references and characters are from the 80s. And you have to think that that's when Dana Carvey's, impressionable, like that was pop culture for him. And now it's in this film. Some of these movies are very much like time capsules in and amongst themselves. And I look at movies like the Scary Movie ones where like it's referencing a lot of pop culture at the time, or the Hot Shots movies, a lot of references around those times. It can get dated, but if you grew up in that era, you at least still get it. This movie, though, one of the things I think that actually plays well for it, it's fast. Like, it's 80 minutes, and 9 minutes of that is in the credits. Also, did you watch all the way to the end of the credits?
Oh, I know what happens in the credits scene with the slapping dummy and stuff like that, so yeah.
Yeah, apparently, the original cut of this film was an hour and 45. A minute 45. That would have been so much easier. No, an hour and 45. And of course, they cut it down to 80 minutes with apparently like 67 minutes of it was the actual film. Like, that's a fast film. And I think that actually plays in its favor, right? It doesn't go on too long. This is not a film where you want to drag it out.
Yeah, definitely not. When I watched it this morning, I thought to myself, wait, that's it? It's already done?
Yeah. And I don't think enough movies use that to its advantage. Like, we did an episode on the 2023 Super Mario Brothers movie, and that movie is fast. And like at 90 minutes, but it feels shorter. And that's a benefit. This film had the potential to drag on. And whether you agree with it or not, I think cutting it down so you just have a lot more madcap antics, kind of punch after punch after punch of impressions, that works in its favor because that's where it leads. And that's why I think as a cartoon, sign it up, call up Dana Carvey, give him some money. Also, Hollywood, pay your writers, but still,
yeah,
give him some money, let him develop this because I think it could work.
Yeah, I can agree with you there, especially because like the cartoon antics of Jesse Ventura just walking off with the Liberty Bell, which he's definitely not. He's never been strong enough to lift on his own, or Jessica Simpson needing the Apollo 11 lunar landing module for her tour. That makes so much more sense in a cartoon than it does in real life.
Oh, absolutely. And the fact that you can play on current pop culture. I mean, you could have him being disguised as a bunch of different singers and having people throw phones at him and hit him in the head. Also, people, when you go to concerts, stop throwing phones at the singers. Just stop. Just stop. But you could play on some of those new pop culture references and still have this character work well. And, I mean, think about The Simpsons, right? It is considered a badge of honor. You know you've made it when you are a Simpsons character.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying the Master of Disguise is going to have that cred right away, but it has the ability to do that same thing that The Simpsons does and put you in a cartoon where it becomes funny as hell.
I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, when I see that, like, well, I sort of think of it as this. It's just who's the next person that The Simpsons are going to bring on. I mean, The Simpsons is one of those things that it stands the test of time, and I think it's still some of the best writing in the history of comedy writing or cartoon writing.
But I think with Netflix, and if they're smart about it, and I'm just going to do my little, podcast pitch session here to Netflix here. I'm going to be able to print you a ton of money here if you just listen, all right? Okay. When you think about the number of different original movies and series that Netflix creates and has the rights to, and if you take a character and a property like The Master of Disguise in an animated setting, you could have Pistachio dressing up like characters from Warrior Nun or Stranger Things or The Witcher, and have them it becomes cross-promotional at that point. You could have Pistachio Disguisey hosting Netflix's Tadum, and it would be funny.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. And all the original content, it definitely works in their favor. I mean, you want to maximize your profits. Literally, there you go.
Okay, so before we get to our MVPs and our shout-outs from the internet here, I'm going to ask you, because of course the show It's Not That Bad. And obviously at 1%, the film's got to suck pretty bad to get to that point, at least from the critics though. But looking back at this, 21 years later, right, with the gift of hindsight and unfortunate maturity, if you're rating this film now, where are you putting it?
Oh, man. I mean, I even think the 1% is kind of too much. I'd probably give it 0.5%.
I'm not going to go as high as 35% because I'm not drunk. But I think it's still at least a 10% film. Is it good? No. We're not kidding anybody here. But is it 1%? I think the 1% is more of the weight of expectation on something from Dana Carvey, because he is a good comedian. I get that there's a lot of the film that feels disjointed. I get there's a lot of the film that's just maybe not funny, but I think you look back at it and go, it's mostly harmless, completely banal humor, goofy as hell, and sometimes you want a little bit of that. Like, I'm not going to lie, a film like that, or an eventual cartoon like that, because Netflix is listening, it's a tonic. A film like this is a tonic. Brent Spiner, I think, nailed it perfectly. Sometimes a movie is so bad, it's fun. Because you sit there and go, I can't believe I'm watching this. And yeah, you're gonna laugh. Little things like apparently with the fart, they were going to cut right away. But they're like, no, the comedy's in the awkward silence and you let it linger. And that joke lands. Like,
every single time it does, yeah. Yeah,
there are jokes that land, And yeah, it's kid and stoner humor, but it's still funny. It's not 1%. It's not 35. Those are the stoners. But it's at least a 10 or 15%. I think it deserves a rewatch. It deserves a cartoon, because I think the spark is there. It just needs the right kindling.
Yeah, I can definitely see what you mean. I was definitely probably a bit too harsh in my criticism, so I can see where a 10% would be like agreeable.
Yeah, I mean, take the goofiness aside. The casting for the most part is pretty spot on. Yeah, I kind of agree. You could probably switch Maria Canals Barrera with somebody else. You could even take that character out, but I think they nailed it. Like Edie McClurg, Harold Gould, Brent Spiner, just a gem, right? And he looked like he was having so much fun. Like, I think the casting is good. Some of the jokes are good. The kindling is required to get the spark. Before we get to our MVPs, though, on Twitter, Brian over at My Weekly Mixtape, our good friend, chimed in with, "It was awesome, and anyone who thinks otherwise simply isn't turtly enough for the Turtle Club." Which, not wrong. Turtle. I've said it before. Any comedy that has you quoting the lines afterwards did the job right. How much of this movie were you quoting afterwards?
Oh, I can definitely remember from when I was a kid, and I mean, even a little bit today with my parents. There's obviously, we would do the turtle, and I'm just trying to remember what the other one was that we would say, or who's your daddy?
and you have to say it in the "who's your daddy," right? Like, it's just so bad. And then Natalie on Instagram chiming in with, "It's been so long since I've seen this movie. I only have that one song stuck in my head. I had to ask what the song was. I'm going to be the master of disguise. I'm going to be your master of disguise." Yeah.
Oh my God.
To which I apologized. But I mean, at least it's not the Vitamin C song, because Vitamin C, right? That just tells you all you need to know about dated references there. But no, it is time. So who is your MVP of the Master of Disguise?
I mean, you're probably going to say the same thing. I think it's Brent Spiner.
Yeah, it's hard not to go with him. Like, again, someone who cherished the moment in the role. But since you said Brent Spiner, I'm going to go, because I had two people written down here. Okay. I do have to give a shout out to Jennifer Esposito, because she, I think, understood the assignment and brought the much needed anchor of sanity for this film. But it was a toss up between Brent Spiner and the person I'm going to give my MVP to, Harold Gould. There is something about cantankerous old grumpy man slapping the crap out of Pistachio that just made the film that much more fun. And you find yourself sitting there going, slap him again. I don't know if that's a good thing for the movie or a bad thing for the movie, but you're still there, and it's all good. Noah, thank you for bringing this movie to our attention and letting us riff on this. I think we've actually talked more about this film than the film actually lasts, aside from the credits. So I'm kind of proud about that one in a way.
Yeah. And I just had to bring up one thing. I also love the fact that just to even get to the flashback scene in Palermo, it took almost 3 minutes for the movie to do that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like, it's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you always say, don't bore us, get to the chorus.
Right. That's, again, Netflix, Master of Disguise, cartoon series. If you do it, I'm looking for a paycheck. No one and I will be sitting here counting our Netflix money. Some of the money that you were going to give to Adam Sandler, give it to us. Okay? Trust us. Okay? Now, dear listeners, you guys know the drill. If there's a movie out there that you think is unfairly maligned or is just so bad that there's no way in a Pistachio Disguise that we can find anything good to say about it, hit us up on Twitter as long as it lasts at NotThatBadCast. You can also find us over at Threads and Spoutable, or go to our website at notthatbadcast.com. And while you're there, check out our coming soon page, because we got a few movies on there we know that you watched, and we want to hear your comments on it. Noah, thank you again. Listeners, you guys are awesome. This is It's Not That Bad. Take care.
Hey folks, Stefan Shirazi and Renee Richardson here from the Metallica Report.
And we are proud members of the Pantheon podcast family, where the best of music and podcasts unite.
We've got something pretty cool for you. We're giving away an exclusive Metallica merch package worth over $250.
That's a whole lot of Scary Guys, Skulls, M72, and other sought-after Metallica swag. And we've made it easy for you to win. Follow and share the Metallica Report, and you're in the game. Go to pantheonpodcast.com/Metallica, enter your email, and hit that button to be entered to win.
And just like that, you're eligible for our monthly exclusive Metallica merch package.
And guess what, rockers? You can enter every month, so just do it. And while we love our global brothers and sisters, the lawyers won't let us ship outside the U.S.